brain enhancement, but not just stimulating your brain and then going back and watching Beavis and Butthead. You know, if you're going to stimulate your brain and make it healthier, then do something with it. Hello everybody, Dr. Vasquez here, coming to you again, live as always. This time I'm going to talk about exercise. And the specific motivation for doing this particular video, other than to remind all of us of the importance of exercise, of course, is to talk about a few details that I thought of, and as you can see, I wrote extensive notes. Recently, I tried a new exercise that I thought was really stupid. I thought it was awkward. I thought it was potentially dangerous. I thought it was kind of a popular fad that I didn't want to be a part of, but I tried it anyway. And that was damn awesome. It was damn awesome. I'll tell you about it in just a moment. I'll tell you about it now. It was kind of like a variation on doing this kettlebell exercises. I'm sure we've all seen the videos, and maybe we've done it. I've done it before. In various different countries, I've had different kettlebells. Right now, I don't have anything that's officially a kettlebell, but I do have a dumbbell. And so the other day, I did my usual exercise, which is a little bit boring. And then I picked up a dumbbell and treated it like a kettlebell. And I thought, well, this is pretty stupid. But it turned out to be really fun. And I ended up doing like 6 sets, which is a lot more than I would usually do. So I want to talk about that a little bit within the context of kind of what we might call the structure of a paradigm of exercise that I want to talk about. So I'll try to keep this short. Usually that never works, but I'll try anyway. The other thing that I'm going to connect with this video is when I did this kettlebell type exercise, even though, like I said, I was using a dumbbell, I did a variation of it that required balancing on one foot. And that reminded me of an exercise I had done and I had recorded as a video several years ago. It was actually 2014, because I remember it was right when we had finally relocated to Barcelona. I bought my place in Spain at the end of 2013, but I had to wait like a whole year to get like official European residency permit. So that's what it took, and it took us, until the following year in 2014 to get residency permit. And then I remember right around that time recording this video. So anyway, that's the chronology of it. And you'll see that in the picture, yeah, it doesn't look like me now, even though I'm doing pretty well. I obviously look a bit younger in that video. So anyway, when you see that video, it's from 2014. And what you'll see in that video is me doing basically just lateral raises with a dumbbell, but doing it on top of a wobble board. So I'll talk about wobble boards in just a moment. That's another thing that might look pretty stupid if you don't know the science behind it, but it's actually quite legit.
It's one of the reasons why I work out so hard. Because when I work out really hard, I have respect for myself. Yes. For that day, I know I'm not a lazy piece of shit. For that day, yep. I know I'm focused. For that day, when I'm done, I'm like, I know who I am. I get shit done.
Es con una sola pierna.
¿Cómo?
Así. Levanta más la pierna. Levántala más. La otra. Sí.
Mucho mejor, mucho mejor.
¿Ya?
So anyway, when you see that video, it's from 2014. And what you'll see in that video is me doing basically just lateral raises with a dumbbell, but doing it on top of a wobble board. So I'll talk about wobble boards in just a moment. That's another thing that might look pretty stupid if you don't know the science behind it, but it's actually quite legit. So wobble boards, I'm not saying they've never been popular or they've never had their advocates, but I think that wobble boards, at least within the chiropractic world, in the physical therapy world, in the orthopedic world, wobble boards gained a significant level of respect based on the research of Vladimir Yanda, I believe out of Russia, but I may be just assuming that. And this was published a long time ago. So I graduated from chiropractic college in 1996, and we were certainly all familiar with Vladimir Yanda's work by then. I think it may have been published in 1991. I'll show a screenshot of the research when I'm editing this video, just so you have that. But the concept, since I'm already talking about wobble boards, the concept is any type of labile surface, or any type of surface, even standing on one foot would be sufficient, but standing on a wobble board or a balance board would certainly make it more challenging. And that is the purpose of it. The purpose is to have to work really hard to maintain your balance. And you can do that on a balance board, which goes side to side. You can do it on a wobble board, which could go in many different directions. In that particular research article, which was published in Spine, which is a very highly respected orthopedic journal, what they used in that research were balance shoes. So it was just a normal shoe platform, so to speak, but below the sole of the shoe was a half of a ball, which then provided, difficulty obviously in walking and maintaining balance. So what they found, as I recall, in that research, again, somewhere around in the early 1990s, was that using that labile platform for, I believe, 5 minutes twice a day, created enough challenge to the central nervous system, especially the cerebellum, to help coordinate musculature in the low back to provide stability to the low back to then alleviate low back pain. So again, a very simple exercise that kind of looks stupid. I mean, wobble board, balance shoes, the whole thing seems a little bit hokey. But I believe 5 minutes twice a day was sufficient to retrain the cerebellum. That's the part of the brain kind of at the back of the skull or the base of the skull that helps specifically coordinate fine movements. And again, 5 minutes twice a day using those balance shoes was enough to retrain the cerebellum to then provide more stability to the spinal column, especially the low back. And that was found to alleviate low back pain in those patients. Obviously, these days we would use other things like vitamin D and other types of exercises. So anyway, again, I changed my own routine a little bit. I tried something kind of like a kettlebell exercise. Then I tried a variation of that, standing on one foot and continuing the exercise. And that reminded me of doing the balance board exercise back in 2014. And so I'm just going to make a quick list of exercise concepts, and maybe someday in the future I'll make this more refined, but this is what I've got right now. So, and this is, like I said, this is kind of a reminder list for all of us, because we can all either forget about doing exercise because as adults, we all have so many damn responsibilities all the time. Like I remember when I was a powerlifter, back when I lived in Houston, Texas. Yeah, I could dedicate, 2 hours or whatever to go into the gym and the prep and getting my bag ready and getting cleaned up before and after and doing all this stuff. I could dedicate, 2 hours a day, maybe even twice a day, to exercise at that time in my life because I didn't have any other responsibilities, right? And life back then was, of course, simpler than it is now. Obviously, things these days everything's just going to hell internationally. So you have to pick which hell you want, basically, on an international level. But again, back when I was, out of high school, I was trying to gain weight. I was still trying to get to 200 pounds at that point when I got out of high school. And then by the time I was just like within 2 or 3 years, I was 250 pounds. So I was a successful power lifter in that sense, and then I was going to start competing. But that's when I started chiropractic college, so I had to make a choice, and obviously I chose my educational path. So anyway, when we think about exercise, these are some things that we might consider. Strength exercises, usually resistance, obviously. But what's the point in doing resistance exercise? I mean, you're trying to gain muscle mass, but you're basically asking the body to expend energy in producing new tissue or new muscle fibers. So you have to trigger that. And the trigger for that is intensity. Now, obviously, if whatever you're picking up or whatever you're doing is too intense, then you increase the risk for injury. So usually we're aiming for, like, in terms of repetitions, somewhere between 8 and 12 is pretty common. That's a pretty common number. I mean, you can go lower if you're trying to, like, power lift and all that kind of stuff. What else do I want to, I guess I'll talk a little bit about each of these. What I learned when I was powerlifting, I followed the work of a guy. I've mentioned his work before. His last name is Darden. He was a PhD exercise physiologist, and he wrote a series of books, but the theme around his books was high intensity. That's the name of his book, High Intensity Bodybuilding. But the theme of his protocol, so to speak, was based around what he called intensity and recovery. So those are important concepts. You have to be intense to stimulate change, but of course then you also have to eat and rest to promote recovery. The other thing I wanted to say about this, I guess this will be my third point, is that strength isn't simply about muscle function. It's also about your central nervous system. So whenever you have to lift something heavy, you have to recruit a lot of muscle fibers at the same time. That's not the same as just doing like a dinky exercise that's not too difficult. If it's really difficult and you really have to get hard, so to speak, and really focus your mind in a way that's different. So like if I just lift a dumbbell casually, like for reps or whatever, or if I'm rehabbing, that's not the same level, obviously, of intensity as lifting something that's heavy and I'm straining to lift it. Again, we don't want it to be so heavy that it causes injury, but you do want it to be heavy enough to activate your brain in a way that provides a different neurologic effect, different from doing just a casual exercise. So anyway, part of the point that I want to make here is when you think about resistance exercise, it does have to meet a certain level of intensity, usually 8 to 12 reps, maybe less, maybe more. Some people do more and they still call it high intensity, like at least 20 reps would be okay for some people. If these concepts are totally new, you might look at Ellington Darden's work around high intensity bodybuilding and his exercise model, which was basically summarized by intensity and recovery. The other thing is, obviously when you exercise, you are changing your brain, always for the better. So strength is one aspect, endurance, obviously not so popular now, so I'll just put reduced popularity. Nobody seems to have much respect for endurance exercise these days. But sometimes it's practical. And sometimes it's fun, you know? So if you want to go hiking for 2 hours, like I love to do, you have to have some level of endurance that you're not going to get from purely doing strength training. As I mentioned earlier, when you're doing exercise or you're thinking of your overall plan, I mean, you could do heavy weights one day, you could do something endurance another day, even if it's just walking or walking uphill. But somewhere in there, you want to include some balance exercises, like I mentioned before. And I'll show you my wobble board exercise that I did. Or you could just stand on one foot, stand on one leg. It doesn't have, if you don't have, you shouldn't have to go buy something necessarily just to throw yourself off balance. I mean, you can just do your normal exercises, but try staying on one leg at a time. And again, the researcher who, in my experience, kind of legitimized this was Vladimir Janda. I'll show you that video from my gym exercise that I did back in 2014. I'll just add it to the end of this video. You want to make sure you're doing something for flexibility. Your exercises could, perhaps even should, have some level of functional application. So, like for me, when I was younger, in my early 20s and late teens and all that kind of stuff, mostly at that time, I would go to the gym and just do bench press or pec deck or machine this or cable that or whatever. That's okay, and it has its place, and I did it. I didn't have any options really. I mean, I was living in Houston, Texas, which has got to be one of the most ugly and boring places on the planet. And like Houston is a city of however many million people, and we had like 2 parks in the whole city, like nothing for the public. And so, yeah, the options for exercise in Houston, Texas were going to a gym or going to like a more private club like the Houstonian or the University Club. What else? Or, maybe going for a run on the streets if you want to run on the streets. I used to bike a lot at that time. And since Houston didn't have any like legitimate parks, they put a little asphalt cement line path along a gutter of the city called Brays Bayou, which was basically like the drainage, the storm drainage of the city. And they called that a trail, like an exercise trail. So anyway, that's where I used to go biking and running, even though it was pretty miserable. But anyway, like I was saying, back in the day, I used to go to the gym and do these resistance exercises that basically had no use outside of the gym. Like you're not gonna walk down the street and save the day by mimicking a pec deck exercise, right? I mean, it's totally worthless. I mean, yeah, you can build some muscle mass out of it, but if you can do an exercise that has some functional use, then that would be great. Martial arts are probably one of the better examples. So, I've done some martial arts, Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu, for example. And so, yeah, if you can do your weights on one day and some martial arts on another day, and then flexibility and balance on another day, that would be a good kind of mixed salad of exercise options. I'm gonna list 2 more, because like I said, these are my very short notes. I'm gonna list 2 more aspects of exercise. Another one is community or something social. And that could be doing like social activity like, sweeping a park or something like that. It doesn't have to be intense exercise. It could just be some type of activity, a walking group, going for a walk with your friend if you have a friend, going for a hike with family like we did 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, you can try to include some type of community or social or friendship aspect to that if that works for you once in a while or whatever. Sometimes it's just a distraction or a hassle, or they show up late and whatever. But that can be an aspect, especially, in certain cities or certain geographical arrangements, so to speak, that would be easier than others. If you have a neighbor who lives next to you and you both finish dinner every day at, 7 o'clock, and you can go for a walk around the block, then, that's something. It's social and it's activity. When we lived in Barcelona, we could go for walks all the time because we didn't have a car. The city has great mass transit, and it was fun to go for walks. I mean, you're walking around this medieval, beautiful European town. So we would go, my wife more than me, but she would go out sometimes with our upstairs neighbors, and they would go do social stuff, but, walk a lot. We went to the theater one night with our neighbors, and it was probably pretty close to 45 minutes or an hour of walking just to get to the local theater. Another aspect of exercise that I wanted to be sure to mention was kind of like the brain enhancing benefits. I think many of us have always respected this. Even back in the day, Arnold Schwarzenegger said, when you train the body, it also trains the mind. But now we have very clear evidence of this. So when people exercise, especially intense exercise, intense enough to get kind of a muscle burn, and this is very simple and it's very basic, but it also seems to work. Let me change that letter. We'll go with intensity, which again could be weights, or it could be sprinting or intense biking or something like that. It burns. And the simple explanation is it's lactic acid and hydrogen ions. Well, that lactic